It's 9:02 a.m. on the 30th September, and there's what seems to be a police car with its emergency lights on, and you've called me over because there's an emergency I can assist you with. Could you let me know what the emergency is?
There's no emergency. Can you produce your driver's license for me? Thank you.
You've got your emergency lights on, so I've stopped because you've indicated there's an emergency. I've certainly committed no crime, and I'm not consenting to participating in any investigation that you're asking for.
Okay.
So unless you have evidence in your hand that I've already committed a crime, I'm asking you, you've indicated that there's an emergency. Could you let me know what that is, please? And it's Officer Leading Senior Constable Macaulay of the Highway Patrol.
Yeah.
I'm reading that off your, it seems like a badge that's on your uniform.
My turn?
I've asked you a question, what's the emergency, and I haven't heard the answer to my question.
I did answer your question.
What's the emergency?
There is no emergency.
Well, then I must be free to go, is that correct?
My name's Senior Constable Macaulay. I'm from Byron Bay Highway Patrol. I just have to advise you the police car has audio and video recording equipment. A conversation as per yours is being recorded at the moment. Do you understand that?
I don't understand. I don't stand under your authority.
Can you produce your driver's license? Thank you.
I don't own a driver's license, and I have a written agreement with Service New South Wales that the contract is null and void.
Okay.
Now, the state has given me a plastic which was never mine. I didn't own it, and that's what you might be referring to, but it's certainly not in my name.
Okay, wonderful. Would you mind producing that for me?
Well, could you tell me what is the cause that you're asking for? Because if you have a valid reason to ask for it, certainly I will.
Wonderful.
But I just did remind you that it's not in my name.
Of course. No worries.
I'm the living being.
Yes.
I'm not a company. I'm not a person. And the piece of plastic is not owned by me.
Okay.
It was not issued by me. And it's not in my name.
Wonderful. No worries. Would you mind producing it for me? Thank you.
I've asked you for the reason. I believe you need a cause to ask for such a thing.
Absolutely.
Is there some controversy today that you've caused me to stop my car? I'm about to start a meeting. You've caused me to be late. I've committed no crime, and you've indicated you've got an emergency. I've asked you.
I haven't. I've indicated
The lights that on your car indicate that there's an emergency. That's why I stopped. I wouldn't have stopped.
That if you let me do what I've stopped you for, you would be on your way and you would not be late for your meeting, okay? Can you produce
I don't consent to any contract between us.
Which isn't your name on it, thank you.
I do not consent.
Section 175 of the driver license exactly, if you are required to produce a driver's license if you are the driver of a motor vehicle in New South Wales.
Well, there's the confusion right there. I'm not driving. There's nothing commercial happening here. I'm in a private vehicle. I own this privately. You're speaking to a living being. I'm not under the jurisdiction of the legislation you've quoted. I'm under the legislation of the Commonwealth of Australia.
Yeah.
The Service New South Wales and the Police Force have been informed about this jurisdictional change. I'm not driving. You've accused me of something I'm not doing, and I have already clarified. You just said that I was driving, and it's not a true statement. I wasn't driving.
Who's driving?
No one that I know.
Okay.
You've stopped me from my private business in my private conveyance. I'm a private living being, and I've asked you what's your cause to stop me.
Yep.
You must have a reason to stop me, and I've asked you many times now, what is it? What's that reason?
Roadside breath test, ma'am.
Well, I certainly have committed no crime that would cause you to delay or hinder me in any way.
That's it. I couldn't agree with you more.
Right. So then you don't have a cause to stop me, and I do not consent to this interaction. I do not consent to any contract or joinder with you as an individual or with your company.
Fine. That is not a problem. I don't. Can you produce your driver's license for me? Or
I've asked you for the reason for that, because you need a cause.
Roadside breath test. I have a power to stop you under the Road Transport Act.
No, you don't have it. Not me. Not me. That's the confusion.
Okay, no worries.
You need to contact Service New South Wales, Damon Rees, and confirm what I've said. I've got my documentation in order. Damon Rees, he is the CEO of Service New South Wales.
Okay.
I've confirmed to you that we have an in-writing agreement of the situation.
Do you have that with you?
Well, they're the ones who produced the piece of plastic you keep asking for, and I've asked you for the cause, and you haven't been able to give a cause because I'm not in your jurisdiction.
I'll say it for a third time. It is a random breath test. You've been stopped for
I don't consent to offer any evidence against me. I don't consent to participate in your investigation. We do not have a contract. I do not consent to a contract. I do not consent to any joinder with you. And at this point, I think it's important that I hand you my notice of service.
Wonderful. That'd be great. Thank you. That'd be great. Thank you. I'll just return to my police car for just a moment. I'll come back and I'll have a look at it for you. Thank you. How did you go?
So, is the highway patrol normally in this tiny little hamlet of New Brighton with its 6
unfortunately we are.
inhabitants?
Yeah, unfortunately we are. We've just
And do you normally pull over people that you have no evidence against and you don't suspect of any crime, and when they don't consent to the interaction, you pursue it? Because are you aware that you take on commercial liability in your private capacity?
I'm sorry, I'm not, no.
Well then, let me make it very clear, because if you end the interaction now and go on your way,
Yeah.
you won't accrue any private commercial losses,
Wonderful.
and you won't call on yourself any further trouble than this incident has already caused.
Okay, well, that sounds fair.
So I've served you my notice of standing, which indicates my true standing. You absolutely get to keep that. Your boss, if you will,
Yes.
has already received a copy, and because notice to principal is notice to agent, you should have already been informed of my standing. And that's where part of the confusion is. Your principal has failed to give you the up-to-date information you need.
Yeah, that could be correct too. So your name's Miss Zoshia Featherlight, is it?
I pronounce the name that people call me as Zosha.
So, thank you very much. I was unaware of that. That's
And for official documentation,
yes.
because the government of the Commonwealth of Australia with the registered ABN and CIK number
Yes.
have turned a version of my name into a business, I've had to rescind my citizenship and pull my whole being, my person, my business name, which is an unincorporated charity, my living being, my domicile are all pulled out of that jurisdiction. The relevant people that you might choose to call authorities have been notified,
Yeah, I've got it.
and they've all received their notices of default, so they've had the opportunity to rebut.
Yeah.
They've chosen not to, because the truth is my jurisdiction is simply not in yours.
Okay.
We are in a different legal jurisdiction.
Okay.
You are in the law or legal jurisdiction of
Yes.
statutory regulations,
Yes.
and I'm under law. It's quite a different body
So the
of...
Imperial Crown of the Commonwealth.
Yes, you see, there you
There
are.
you go. I can read too.
Good. Me too. Well, thank goodness for our early educations. I wish they had have informed us that we had options sooner. But I certainly am aware of who I am and my true rights.
Yep.
As a petitioner of the Queen, I am a national of the Commonwealth, and I am not
and
a
the King
citizen.
as well.
That is right.
Yes.
So I am a loyal subject to the King, and I'm not a citizen in the corporation. I don't have a contract with your corporation, and I couldn't possibly consent to any further delay in me having my private day.
Okay.
So that's been signed by me.
I have seen that. Yeah. Do you just have the one? Do you just sign the one?
Okay, so I use my name, first name, or they
Yep.
call it Christian name,
Yes.
Zosha,
Yep.
in a lot of different ways. Sometimes I write it down, Zosha-Featherlight, and sometimes I write it Zosha,
Okay.
and it depends on the mood I'm in, because I get called a lot of names. My mum calls me Sweet Pea. What does your mum call you?
I don't know. I didn't really have a mum.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's all right.
Do you have someone who does care for you?
I'm sure there would be somewhere in the world.
Maybe you've had a nickname at one point, and you get called by all these different, let's say, nicknames, sounds. I'm called by about 6 different things. A lot of people can't say my first name, so they say Zo.
Okay.
My brother used to call me Pandy.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So there's a lot of ways to call me, but I certainly don't consent to this intervention any further.
okay. Well, I understand that.
And I'm really not under your jurisdiction. I think the best thing is just to say, have a lovely day, and let's call it at that.
Okay. No worries. The piece of plastic that I'm referring to being what I call a driver's license that you're not going to produce. When it was issued to you by the authority who didn't issue it to you, but they suggested that you have it.
No, I mean, they did issue it to me.
They did issue it to you.
They issued to me in the name of the person.
Okay, that's right. You did say
And
that.
I'm the executor for that trust.
Okay. Look,
I mean, I'm the sole beneficiary and executor. It's not like that I'm some random thing. There is a connection there. I am the executor of that trust.
Yes.
They issued the executor a piece of plastic, and I've said I absolutely will show it to you if you can just tell me the cause.
Okay. Okay, so
And you've not been able to say a
Well, I
cause
absolutely
that
did.
rates to my jurisdiction.
No, well, that's true. So, under the jurisdiction, obviously, which I operate under, if you're driving a motor vehicle, which you're not, obviously, but if you're driving a motor vehicle on a road, under the definition in New South Wales, you're defined to be a driver, and if you're the driver of a motor vehicle on a road in New South Wales, then you must hold a New South Wales driver's licence, and under the Road Transport Act, you must produce it to someone who's an authority, which you obviously don't recognise as me being.
I don't stand under your authority,
Of course,
but you
no.
have authority over lots and lots of the persons
Yeah.
that you would pull over on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I don't dispute that you have no jurisdiction.
Okay.
I dispute that I'm under a different jurisdiction than your authority.
Okay.
I'm outside the limits and bounds of your authority,
Yes.
and I have this in writing with the Chief of Service New South Wales,
Yes.
who issued the piece of plastic we're discussing.
Yes.
And in that same notice of standing, I have sent a similar or much more long version to all the people that you would consider your authorities in your same jurisdiction.
Yeah, I've got a lot on my side, yeah.
I know.
That's true.
Whereas I've got God and then the King, and that's it.
Okay.
So it's way handier.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm not being rude or belligerent.
I know you're not.
I've
No, I
agreed.
understand that.
I will show you and I'm not trying to hide my identity. I've given you a document with identifiable words written on it that you'll be able to know who it is.
Yeah.
But I should tell you that I'm not under your jurisdiction, and I can't possibly consent
Okay.
to any further interaction between us.
Okay.
It really is against my rights as a
Yeah.
Commonwealth national.
Your rights, just for future reference, you can be detained by police, okay, whether you consent to it or not, okay, so...
You'd want to
just-
have a pretty good cause.
Not really.
Because if you don't, you might turn out that you're infringing on my rights worse than your cause.
Yeah, no. Look,
And that would end up being quite
okay,
expensive
so
for you.
I've listened to you now.
Yeah.
Would you like to listen to me so we can end this interaction?
I sure would like to end it.
Wonderful. Okay. As a driver of a motor vehicle on New South Wales Road, okay, police have the authority, generally,
Yep.
to stop people for the purpose of a roadside.
I've
protest.
heard
Okay,
about
listen for a moment. Okay. A person can produce a driver's license or some form of identity. Okay. They submit to the roadside breath test and they are free to go. Unfortunately, in this area here, we have the highest rate per capita of alcohol impaired drivers in the state of New South Wales, or very close to it, okay? So we have lots and lots of people who drive impaired by alcohol.
It's 9 a.m. on a Friday morning.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
I refuse to believe a lot of what's happening in the moment, actually.
Okay.
I find it very surprising.
Okay. There was a Tweedheads Highway Patrol. He one of those people that you think aren't here. He was stopped this morning at 7:30, and he was arrested for a random breath test.
At 7:30.
At 7:30 this
But-
morning, yeah.
So far, has it sounded like or looked like I have got any sort of drunkenness? I actually don't drink, but you didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, does it seem like to you, now that we've had quite a long conversation, that I actually probably am drunk or could be drunk at all?
I don't think you are. And
Right.
I'm not sure why you're delaying the process of undergoing a breath test.
Because you're infringing on my authority to conduct my
I'm just
private
hold you this here
piece.
without going into your vehicle, okay?
I do not consent to this encroachment on my rights.
Okay. Do you understand that if you don't consent to a breath test, that you can be arrested? Okay.
Actually,
I've
I
made
do
it-
not understand, and I find that that
Okay,
is
well, I've made
quite.
it very clear
That's
to you
a
now,
strong
okay?
statement that I think you'll find is inaccurate, and I'd like you to produce the proclamation
I don't have to produce any.
certificate
I've already
of
told
any
you, okay?
any legislation that
So
you
You've
purport.
been told unconditionally about your rights, of what you have to do as a driver of a motor vehicle.
I am not a
in New South
driver.
Wales.
That is a false statement.
Continue to carry on and go along this line in future reference, okay? There is going to, it may not end out like it is at the moment. It may end adversely for you, okay, with your arrest for failing to produce your driver's license, okay? I've established who you are through the computer on my phone, on my police vehicle there, all right? I've taken whatever this is here.
It's
all
my
right?
notice of standing, which helps you understand that I'm not in your jurisdiction.
Yeah, it doesn't really help me to understand because I'm not under this jurisdiction, and in a court of law, this holder about as much water as a bucket of water filled hole.
I hope you're not willing to bet your family's home on that
Have a
statement,
good
sir.
day, man. See you later.